The ocean has always been a place of great fear and chaos. In fact, for many cultures, they didn't like going to the beach until relatively modern times. So how does this fear of the ocean affect how we would view gods? Every year in Taiwan, thousands march hundreds of kilometers carrying the statue of Mazu from temple to temple. And Taiwan just has an immense love for Mazu, their sea goddess.
I love you! I love you! I love you!
So today we're going to talk about the origin of Mazu. And next week we're going to bring you some footage from the actual pilgrimage that we went out and filmed this last weekend. Mazu's origins lie in a historical woman who lived about 1,000 years ago. But if I explained it, it might be a little bit boring. So we're going to call on some help from our paper puppet pals! Story time with Jake. So in 960 AD, there's a woman named Lin Monyang, born in the Fujian province. Peeps today call her Mazu. Her name Monyang means the silent girl, which she earned by being born without the traditional baby whales, so we're just going to call her Mo. Mo has a legendary birth story where Guanyin, the Buddha, gives a magical pill to Mo's mother. Mo shot out in the form of a fragrant flash of red light. Mo was a genius, so she mastered Confucius by the age of 8, and she moved on to conquer the sutras by age 11. All this studying gave Mo mystical, magical Taoist powers, like astral projection. Mo mostly used this to gather flowers from people's gardens, but she got permission first because if you steal produce, that's like wrong. At age 16, Mo met a Taoist immortal who gave her a mystical amulet.
Thank you.
You're welcome!
She used her amulet skills to exorcise demons, heal the sick, and avert disaster like a boss. She also could make it rain. Literally though, because money was heavy back then and it was dangerous to throw. One day, Mo's family was caught in a typhoon while Mo was at home doing ancient Chinese things, like using a loom. Mo immediately went into a trance and is able to save the men from drowning. But during this trance, her mother interrupts her.
You're a long ways past the reef.
And Mo loses focus, causing her brother to sadly drown. Mo even has suitors. 2 demons named Thousand Mile Eye and Wind Following Ear both fall in love with her. So Mo, being an honest woman, says, you know what, she's gonna marry the one that defeats her in combat.
Defeat me and I'll marry you!
Instead, though, she uses her incredible martial arts ability to trash them both. Sneaky, sneaky Mo. This embarrassing incident results in friendship, though, and Mo hires both the demons as her generals. They mostly just listen to the sufferings of the world now and let Mo know how it's going. Still friend-zoned, though. Sadly, most believe Mo died young and unmarried around 27 years old. But that didn't stop her story, no siree. After her death, Mo lived on as Mazu, the Chinese sea goddess known for miraculous intervention in the lives of sailors. Story time is over. Mazu eventually became the beloved god of fishermen and travelers. And for over 1,000 years, Mazu has been worshipped and looked to for those in the most dire times on the high seas. To ancient seafaring people, the ocean was just a terrifying place, and they didn't take it lightly. In fact, if you saw a whale back then, you would think maybe it's a kraken trying to murder you, but I'm not saying krakens aren't real, they might actually be real, so just watch out for those. So there are many stories and legends of sailors at sea being saved by Mazu. It was said that historically, whenever a fleet would actually encounter a storm, they would start personally burning incense and praying to Mazu, normally in the Taiwan Strait area between mainland China and Taiwan. That's where Mazu worship was flourishing and done the most. And stories would say that storms would actually stop when they were worshiping Mazu, or a ship would be headed towards a reef and the ship would be like, I'm gonna crash. All the corals like, no! And the ship's all of a sudden, wave pushes it away and all the dolphins are like, I can't make a dolphin noise. Some say that she rescues people lost at sea, and some even have her bringing rain to places that are experiencing a drought. So when you think of Mazu, you're thinking of a god that people cry out to in times of great need. She's a very compassionate god that the Taiwanese turn to when there's problems. She offers protection that relates a lot to the most tangible aspects of life, like protection from storms, safety from typhoons, which can cause a lot of damage here. And Taiwanese even relate it to something that's really practical in their life, their fishing industry. And for an island nation, I mean, they need fish.
好鲜呐！
Today, she plays the role of sort of a patron saint of those who have immigrated from mainland China to Taiwan. And you can find hundreds of temples and local stories about Mazu. And there's even miracles that are attested to as recent as World War II, when she saved a village from bombs that were dropping. Ooh, baby, compare, contrast, compare, contrast. So there's just something about that feeling of utter powerlessness that the ocean instills into mankind.
I'm not afraid of you!
If we turn to Luke 8, the disciples and Jesus decide to go across the Sea of Galilee, and during this, Jesus falls asleep. And while he's asleep, a storm comes, and the boat actually starts filling with water, which tells you that Jesus was like really comfortable and sleeping real deep, that like a watery boat wasn't freaking him out. But the disciples are like, this is how it ends. This is Titanic time. So they literally wake Jesus up and they yell, Master, Master, we're perishing! And Jesus wakes up, and you'd expect him to freak out if he's a normal person, but he's the Son of God. So he actually casually rebukes the winds and the waves. He's like, storm, stop it. And the weather calms. Jesus then casually also turns to the disciples and he's like, yo, guys, where's your faith? I mean, at this point, Jesus is already becoming famous for doing boatloads of miracles, so it would make sense the disciples should have trusted that maybe he wasn't going to let him just die on a boat in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. But we see the disciples look at each other, and they say, who is this that commands the winds and the waves to obey him? It's easy to brush off the disciples because several of them are fishermen, and in modern times, we tend to do this all the time, where we're like, I went to college and a fisherman would have been so uneducated. Peter was a fisherman. He couldn't even write. Wrong.
Sheldon, I'm more than smart enough to take your class. No.
The truth is that if you were a Jewish person in the first century, you were living in a study culture, and chances are you actually had memorized the entire Torah. Like, that's 5 books of the Bible, and they're not easy books. They were a very literate and educated society. That's not saying everybody was literate, but it's saying by and large, it's not this idea of this uneducated fisherman who's like, me no read no well, but I love Jesus. No. So at the very minimum, they knew the Psalms. They might not have memorized all of them, but they were familiar with every single one. And there's a fascinating story in Psalm 107, 23 through 32, and it tells a story very similar to their situation. There's sailors going out on the ocean, and at some point, they're getting tossed about. Psalm 107, 26 through 27 says, they mounted up to heaven, they went down to the depths. Their courage melted away in their evil plight. They reeled and staggered like drunken men, and were at their wits' end. I don't know if you've ever been to like a carnival and rode one of those like pirate ship rides. I remember riding it when I was like 3 or 4 years old and just vomiting everywhere.
The park's pirate ship ride malfunctioned, and they couldn't stop it for about 10 minutes.
And it just kept on going, and I just got really scared, and I was feeling really sick, and I was crying. I was just terrified on it.
That's what was happening in the ocean, and they weren't paying carnival tickets for it. It's terrifying. There's a group of sailors, they're gonna die. Like, what a powerful feeling of terror the ocean has over you when it's throwing a boat into the air like it's just a piece of paper. Verse 28 and 29 go on to say, though, then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He made the storm be still, and the waves of the sea were hushed. So the psalm is saying that God is the only person who can calm the winds and the waves. So when the disciples look at each other and they have this question, probably it's less of a question and more of an aha statement. Who is this that commands the winds and the waves to obey him?
他是谁?
他是
The answer is clear, God. This Jesus who was on the boat with them, who was literally asleep during a storm, is God. And when this clicks, I imagine their minds are racing. Psalm 107 doesn't talk about just an ocean God. See, it's a long psalm, and it talks about a God who sits with us and rescues us from prison, from deserts, from poverty, from the wicked, a God with steadfast, unending love, and a very personal God. And this shows us just a little bit of who Jesus is. See, Jesus isn't just for the scholar, the good person, the Westerner. He's also for the fisherman, the lost at sea. And he's there for the ones feeling swallowed up by the storms around them. So in Jesus and Mazu, we see these gods who take care of you when you're on a body of water and have this compassionate nature and show love for humanity. Mazu may be the god of the sea, but for Christians, Jesus is so much more than a sea god. He's a personal god. He's God of everything. Next week, we're going to return to a vlog style video, and we're going to bring you on the ground footage of the Mazu Pilgrimage, which is wild. The special effects budget was like out of the roof. There is explosions, fire. We actually saw a miniature forest fire. Hailey got lost, which was crazy, but we found her because we were able to borrow like 3 scooters from a guy named Alan that we met by eating at his Suijiao shop. It was a weird day, but it was a fantastic day. And we might even have an appearance by a very famous guest, the president of Taiwan. I don't want to overhype this, but we did film her at one point. So thanks for watching. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. Have you ever felt like you're a fearful sailor in the midst of a storm? Like in real life? Tell us your boat story in the comments, because I'm sure that's fascinating. Maybe you don't have a boat story, but has there ever been a time where you're kind of like, I need to call out to God now because I'm going to die if I don't have him listen to me? I know I've been rock climbing, I've been caught in a boat, I've been on planes flying from Albany to New York City. There's some really scary experiences you can have in life, and sometimes we cry out to God, and oftentimes they're fascinating stories. Now, I'm going to put on my first century Jew hat for a second. That's imaginary. I don't actually have a first century Jew hat.